All right. All right. All right. So goal setting, lifestyle design, workshop. This is going to be a lot of activity. Feel free to raise your hand if you need to take a break or if you want to just go use the bathroom. But hopefully you have, like we talked about, notebook, something to write on, or I've got access. I'll give you access straight to the Google Docs. So if you want to write straight into that, or download a PDF, we can do all the things. So whether you're digital or not, it's perfect. Feel free to interrupt, obviously, when you have questions, which I think will be good to keep this rock and rolling. But I don't know if you will get through the whole process tonight because there's a lot there, but trust that the rest of the stuff will get done once you get into the mode, and it's pretty self-explanatory. So you just kind of follow along with this document that I've got. Okay. So any questions before we get going? Cool. Love it. Let me share my screen real quick. Have any of you guys seen the Wheel of Life before?
Maybe.
It's pretty not overused, but it's pretty typical. But it's a good thing to do, even though I've done it personally several times. It's just a good way to look at where you are right now in this present moment. Okay.
Yes, Mike. I have a question that would confirm whether I have or haven't.
Yeah.
Does it have any parallels with the hero's journey?
No. No, it does not.
Then no.
Okay. Cool. Well, there's explanation here, which I can let you guys read through it. But essentially, what it's going to look like when you're completed is that you're going to take each section of this wheel, so to speak, right? And they don't have to be categorized in this fashion, whether it be physical environment, career. I actually took physical environment out of it because for me personally, with Denver, like I love Colorado, right? So I replaced that with overall fulfillment, which kind of plays into fun and recreation. So if you've got something else in there that you want to put in there, like spirituality, that sort of thing, I think that would be pretty helpful. So feel free to massage this as you see fit. But again, from 0 in the very middle of the wheel, right, all the way out to 10, you're gonna ultimately, just like I have on my sheet here, I don't know if you can see this, probably on a small little window. This is mine that I did just the other day when we did this in person on Saturday. And so I put fulfillment, and clearly the lowest for me is like romance, is like an intimate relationship, since I'm not in one at the very moment. Okay. So I put personal growth, like it says here. So I ultimately want you guys to take a snapshot, because this isn't necessarily where you want to be. This isn't where you were 3 months ago. This is just right where you are right now. Okay. And I have, like I said, this document that I'm going to put into those of us that are obviously live right now versus those that are going to be watching this after the fact. I'm going to put this into in the chat box, but as well as somewhere below this video if you're watching after the fact. It's going to be viewer only. So all I want you to do ultimately is when I send it to you here, I want you to go to File, make a copy if this is the way that you want to do it. And that way you can make a copy for yourself. Otherwise, you could do it without this wheel, and all you want to do is list out those 8 different categories and rate yourself from 0 to 10 being amazing. Okay. But what I like about it is at the end of the day, you'll have, like, if this is the wheel of life, but this is how your wheel actually looks, then that's going to be a very bumpy ride, right? So that's what I want us to do in the first couple of minutes. A lot of this workshop is going to be you guys actually doing the work in your journals or online. Okay. So does that make sense? Any questions on that simple exercise to start things off?
Yeah, so you're just going to put it in the chat?
Yep. Put it in the chat right now. Boom. So click on that. Open that up if you want to print it off. If you want to download as a PDF, do what you want. But essentially, that's I want you to work with that wheel, or you can literally draw it very quickly on a piece of paper on your own, right? But going back to the example, It's career, money, health, family and friends, significant other, your significant intimate relationship, personal growth, fun and recreation. Like I said, that could be, any of these could be swapped out. Spirituality, fulfillment, that sort of thing. Cool. So let's take 5 minutes at least. 5 minutes. I want you guys to take some time. I got a little music here. You can turn on, you can mute me if you want. I'll just be waving. I got some music though. Hopefully you got that pulled up on your side so I can stop sharing here. But I'll turn on a little music. I'll set my timer for 5 minutes. I'll come back if you guys need more time after that. That's totally cool. But let's just figure out where you're at as a quick snapshot, because this is going to start our brains working towards, okay, what areas of your life in 2022 or whatever year that you're watching this, do you want to dial in on and move the needle forward? Cool. 5 minutes. Ready, set?
Cool. Got it.
Another minute and a half. start wrapping things up, hopefully. 30 seconds. All right, you guys have a good handle on that for so far? Just give me a thumbs up. Ryan, you need a little more time. Cool. How do we go? Thumbs up. Love it. Love it. Okay. Next part of this is super simple. Let's say, again, I'm at a 7 on fulfillment. What would it require of me to take my life to just an 8? An 8 or a 9 at most. Don't think about going all the way to a 10. I want you to write down on your piece of paper. I wrote it just kind of next to each category. Like, what would it be? For me, it was actually doing more fun, working less, having more impact, being more intentional with my time, not wasting so much time, but getting outside more would bump my fulfillment up by 1 or 2 points. Okay. So take a few minutes just to think about, for each category, what's going to move it up just one. So for me, like, again, with relationships, being in a relationship would probably take it from a 3 to a 7 or 8. Okay. Just going from a 3 to a 4 might be like going on a couple more dates. So you don't have to jump all the way to the outside of the circle. Okay. Does that make sense? So take a minute, look through each category, write down at least one thing that you could do to move that, whatever number it is, from 1, just up one more number closer to the outside of that circle. Cool? Cool. Okay. Cool. If that's not done, you guys can finish that pretty quickly, I think, as we keep going along here. The whole idea, again, is, I think in goal setting, oftentimes, for instance, it would be like me saying, oh, I'm not currently in a relationship, and what would make this year amazing is if I met someone, fell in love, and got married. Is that possible? Perhaps. but that might be going from a 3 to a 10, which is almost just, it might be part of our brain that short circuits is like, no, I don't think you could really achieve that, you know? So the idea is for us to be setting goals, yes, for 2022, but even more so, ultimately setting 90-day tangible, reachable goals that are just movements in the right direction, right? Otherwise, we get overwhelmed. We have too much on our plates and our brain just shuts down, right? So you guys got at least a couple of them, of the categories. Cool. So looking at this next document, which I can share with you guys as well. There's pictures of us everywhere. Okay. So I'll share this with you guys as well. This is more or less the document that I want you guys to work from, and whether, again, you write this into your journal or you literally make a copy of this and write straight into a Google Doc. I will share this with you guys right now. Those of you that are live online. Copy. I'll put it into the chat right there. There you go. So feel free to make a copy of that. So we just did number 1, complete the wheel exercise. This next part is a really important part, in my honest opinion, that really gets your juices flowing. If we go straight into goal setting, we forget why we do all this in the first place, right? We goal set, we want to accomplish goals for what reason? Ultimately, to feel a certain emotion, right? We want to feel a sense of pride for ourselves. We want to feel a sense of, success, if you will. We want to be able to accomplish goals so we have more time, whatever the case might be, right? But we tend to forget all the things that we have accomplished. And I did this just the other day in the coffee shop with some of the other guys, and it blows my mind every single time, because if I think back on this past year, 2021, I can think of a couple of highlights, but most of it is a blur. And so this process for me took probably half an hour, honestly. And we might not take the entire time to write things out. But for me, I have to go back into my calendar and go, starting in January 1 year ago, and start looking through my calendar of what are the things that were highlights of 2021. Okay. And I want you to write all of those out. Again, just the highlights, or go through your calendar, go through your photos, because a lot of times we take photos and we didn't put stuff into our calendar. Those are really the fun times, right? Those are things that we're like, oh man, that was so much fun. But we tend to, again, set goals that aren't related to the stuff that actually makes us fulfilled, that actually makes us feel like we're living an amazing lifestyle, right? And we just stay so focused on producing and got to get stuff done. And we take a lot of the joy out of the process of living, right? So that's why this is a lifestyle design and goal setting exercise, okay? So first and foremost, just go through your calendar, go through your photos. We'll probably take about 15 minutes to do this. Write down as much as you can. I'd say this is why we're not going to finish this whole process tonight, because it's going to take probably longer than 2 hours. But for the sake of time, just start going through. Maybe you get through half of your calendar or half through the photos or whatever. You can go back to your social media and scroll back, whatever works for you. Let's start there. And you'll find yourself getting into places like, oh, you know what? Like, I actually had a great year, or this was really fun. We put ourselves into a state of gratitude, which then moves us into number 3, which we'll get to in 15 minutes. Cool? So let's take 15 minutes. Again, if you have questions, just wave me down or speak out loud. I'll turn off the music. Does the music help or does it not help?
I think it's fine.
Yeah. Again, if it's annoying, just mute. Mute, just make sure you keep an eye on me. So if I'm waving at you to join us again. Cool. Just focus on the highlights. And we'll just stick there before we go on to number 3. Cool. Rock and roll. Another 8 minutes or so. Like I said, don't stress. I know you probably won't get it all done, but just get a good start to it.
I hate to sleep with one eye. I see the headlights turn to shadows driving fast. I hope one night it's not you, baby. 'Cause you woke up and realized you can sleep with peace of mind. Don't worry, I'm wide awake. I know it's gonna hurt me. These stupid fools. So if you're gonna leave me in the middle of take a bed, take a bed. If you're gonna leave me, don't say goodbye. Take a bed off, take a bed. Sometimes I wonder what's about me, but sometimes baby, I said what's in me. But I be on one that know it. So if you're gonna leave, take a bed. Don't drag me, don't hang around, don't take your time, don't twist the knot, don't let me see it, just let me do. So if you're gonna leave me in the middle of the night. Oh, take a bed on, take a bed on. If you're gonna leave me, then leave me. Don't say goodbye, don't say goodbye. Let it burn all the way to let it burn, let it burn, let it burn, let it burn all the way.
couple more minutes. Okay. That's 15. Let me get a little feedback from you guys. Was that probably not enough time, but maybe it was, depending on all the highlights. Did you remember going back through your calendar, back through your pictures, all this stuff, things that you hadn't remembered right off the top of your mind? Adam?
Yeah, there was quite a bit there, I guess, to
Yeah. What were
kind of
some?
move through. It's a good idea to use like photos, and I keep a journal too, so I could try and like when I have more time, read through some of the past entries from
Yeah. Good.
early January, February, whatever, and
Okay.
try and jog the memory of what was I writing about, like what was so significant
Yeah.
for that time area or whatever.
Right. Right. So,
But I think a lot came up that I was kind of free writing and just flowing through,
yeah.
things that I've done and just like accomplishments, things that I've pushed forward on and stuff, and things that I've like even stuff that I've gotten started that's like a huge step and going in the direction I want to go.
Cool. So it's good for you to kind of look back and see even some of the progress that you've made since then.
Yeah.
Good. I know you've made a lot of progress in a lot of different areas, but that's awesome. Bryce or Ryan?
Yeah, I definitely think it'd be useful, at least for me, to kind of break it up into two parts, and one with, the things that immediately come to mind, and then a revisit after, like looking at pictures, like you mentioned, revisiting old journal entries, but, kind of taking some time to dig up the ones that aren't right at the front of my mind, more as a reflection on those, just to fill in the gaps of some of the ones that popped up immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
Not all of us keep all of our stuff on our calendar. I do, but not everyone is obviously like me. Not all of us take photos either, right? So
Right.
we have to go back and figure out a way to, like, the social media is a good way sometimes to capture what it is that we did last year. And of course, the things that you value that you're going to write down as highlights are things that you should do more of this year, right? Bryce, what about you?
Yeah, I guess I'm in the camp of only thing that I put on the calendar is like, my business calendar stuff so that I can go through that. But I'm not too active on social media. I don't take a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little difficult, and in a way I kind of feel a little bit of resistance on some of it because I'm just, trying to figure out also that idea of going back and grabbing your accomplishments and everything. I feel a little bit of resistance going through and trying to find those things in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I honor you in that you acknowledging that you have that resistance there, right?
Yeah.
Because again, I probably felt this way more so with 2020. There's definitely a lot of good things that I could write down, but it wasn't like I took a lot of steps back. Let's just say that in my mind, at least, because of COVID,
Mhm.
shutting a lot of things down. And so when I was doing this process a year ago, 2020 was like, I didn't want to think about it. I had resistance going back to some of those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and for me, like this past year, having a breakup in the middle of the year, a lot of those memories and photos were of this relationship that I'm like, that stings, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. So I think naturally having some resistance or some some conflicting emotions is totally normal. I think you just have to fight through it and see what you can do to capture it. But it brings up another good point for you, Bryce, and anyone else that's watching this after the fact. That if we don't do anything to really capture what it is that we're doing that we enjoy, even if it's writing things down or putting it in a calendar, taking photos, like we need to capture something. Otherwise, you'll be looking back on not just this past year, but 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, a lifetime, and be like, what did I accomplish? Right. And that's what a lot of men do, especially in their mid 40s or whatever, as they often say, is like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I can't think of anything. So that's what I'm ultimately wanting us to move towards. But if last year there's a lot of resistance, well, then the key is obviously this year, it being something that you really want. You'll look back on this year, obviously a year from now, and it'll go by that fast, and you'll want to be able to look back with pride and be like, man, that was a challenging year, but I stepped up. I'm proud of myself, whatever the case might be, right?
Yeah.
So it's good. The third part of this is, what were the highlights of 2022? And you're probably thinking like, wait, what? The whole idea is to look through the highlights of 2021, to recognize that, oh, you know what? Like when you started going back and just looking at the highlights and all the things that you love doing, you might, for me, again, I just realized when I was doing this even before, during kind of like my Christmas break, that all the things that I love about this past year, I'd say 70 to 80% of them had nothing to do with my work. It was traveling, it was being outside, it was, camping, it was smelling the trees, it was rafting, it was all those things, And yes, I can say, okay, cool, the book and this and that, podcast, great. And not to belittle those things, but it made me realize that I spend 80, 90% of my time, my waking time, week to week, on not the 80% that I actually was most fulfilled on last year. So I made the decision this year that I was going to start taking more time off, because I waste so much time. I just focus so much on like productivity, got to get stuff done. But without any sense of urgency, I'll end up wasting a lot of time throughout my day to day. Okay. So this has a little bit more to do with time management. So I'm taking off Tuesdays and Friday afternoons. And then also not scheduling any meetings or any podcasts or any coaching calls before 1 p.m. So all my mornings are for myself. Tuesday and Friday afternoons are now to go biking, hiking, camping, being outside, doing the things that I want to do. I'm going to travel a lot more because, quite frankly, those are stuff that I really enjoy doing. And I believe that when I do that, it'll make the time that I do work a lot more. I'll know I won't have as much time to fudge around, be on social media, right? So that works for me, but I want us to look at it for you guys. And when we're looking at what were the highlights of 2022, the idea is for you to begin writing as if you are 1 year from now looking back on 2022, just kind of like we were just doing for 2021. And I want you to be in a state of gratitude or appreciation and be like, you know, I'm looking at my list right here because like I said, I wrote it all out the other day, and I'm like, I wrote this out as saying, damn, 2022 was my most fulfilling year of my entire life. Why not? Like, if I'm pretending, right, I would love it to be. I'm so grateful because I truly focused on creating this past year with the intention of doing the things that make me most happy. You know, sitting behind my computer here, you know, for hours upon hours doesn't necessarily make me happy, right? So helping people, being outside, doing all those things. And that's what I want us to focus on. If your highlights from 2021 are things that don't have to do with work or doing things with your kids or with your significant other, or getting outside, traveling, like, let's do more of that, right? And then figure out how to make money in between all the times that you're having fun, right? That's, to me, is living an abundant lifestyle. So as it says here online, as you're looking on the screen, write out your highlights of 2022 as if they've already happened, okay? From a place of gratitude. I'm so grateful this happened. This was such an amazing, like, can't believe I met this woman. I can't believe, you know, we started a family. If you guys are trying to have kids, whatever the case might be, right? Can't believe I 3x'd my business, 10x'd my business. Can't believe I traveled to Europe for 3 months. Like, whatever it is that you think would really, really make this year super exciting, I want you to start writing those things down, okay? Because for me, when I was looking at coming home from New Year's, and my brother, the night before I left, was like, "You excited to get home?" I was like, not really. Like, if I were to play out 2022 in the same way that I played out 2001, it's just a lot of work. It's a lot of being solitary. It's a lot of just kind of chugging away on stuff. And I didn't necessarily love that. So he's like, "Well, what would make you super happy?" I was like, "Honestly," and I had to go back to this. I'd already kind of forgotten. I had to go back to this exercise. I was like, man, being outside. So I bought a new gravel bike. I'm like, let's just set things up to be more fulfilled. And I believe being happier is going to make me more productive when I do work, right? And it's going to make me a better, you know, person to hang out with. You know, I'm going to attract the right type of woman because I'm happier, more fulfilled. You see how this all works, right? So let's spend another 15 minutes going back through, not going back through, but just starting to write out anything and everything. Sky's the limit for just what you think your highlights would be in 22. Even if you're looking at 2021, like, it wasn't that great of a year, then if you could design this year the way that you want to abundantly, let's write those highlights out. And then the next part will be going back and highlighting the highlights of your highlights. Does that make sense? So you might write out 20 highlights for 2022, but there might be 3 or 4 that are most amazing. And then we're going to start focusing on that stuff. This is all going to work its way into goal setting. Cool? Any questions? Cool? 15 minutes. Let's just rock and roll on this. Like I said, if you got to go to the bathroom, go for it. But let's just keep chugging away since time is of the essence. Ready? Go for it. 15 minutes. 4 more minutes. one more minute. All right. Right on. Did you take time to go back and highlight or circle the most significant highlights? If you haven't, that would be definitely something to do, obviously. Again, those highlights get us even closer to the things that you really want to do and that make you happy and fulfilled in this coming year, right? So moving along, again, you're going to have this this document. So I'm still working literally as you guys are working. I'm ahead of you guys, but I'm working on the same thing because I didn't finish it in 2 hours the other day. It takes a little bit of time, and I feel like you can't rush through these things. Otherwise, then it kind of feels like it's just an assignment versus you actually really getting some gold out of it. Okay. So any questions on that part? If you do, feel free to ask. Number 4 is, what was your biggest obstacle in 2022 and how did you overcome it? So this is going to require you to kind of anticipate some challenges, some roadblocks. Certainly we're all going to have them. That's just life, right? For business and personal. We're not going to do this right now, but I want to explain it because I want us to get to some of the other good stuff. But for me, it was like the biggest obstacle in 2022 was overcoming the temptation to do anything but those things that resulted in catapulting my business forward. Okay. I overcame it by getting clear about what those KPIs truly are. And then I wrote all my KPIs that I really need to focus my time on when I'm working. Right. And then my personal was like my biggest obstacle to personally, my biggest obstacle personally in 2022 was overcoming resistance and taking time off, enjoying the moment, and falling deeply in love with my life. And so I overcame the resistance by remembering how much I love the following activities. And so I wrote down all the things that I really want to do more of in 2022. Okay. So like I said, we're not going to necessarily do that right now. You guys are going to have this recording anyways. You can always come back. So if there's something that I say that you're like, oh, you know what, I want to come back to that, literally just kind of look at your watch and be like, okay, we're an hour and 15 minutes in, put a little timestamp like in your document. That'll remind you to come back to this part of this video to remind you to kind of do some of that work. Okay. Of course, number 5 is kind of where have you grown? So obstacles in 2000, and I'm sorry, number 4, number 5 is where have you grown the most? Where for you to really accomplish that ideal 2022, where are you going to have to really push yourself? Okay. And I'm talking about more of ways of being than saying, oh, I've really grown in the fact that I've made more money. Like, okay, but what did you have to do? Who did you have to be to make more money, right? Or to attract that partner, or to get more fit and healthy, that sort of thing. Okay. So now that we've used that first hour to really kind of brainstorm and get the juices flowing, we're going to get kind of more into the nitty gritty. Okay. So 3 questions for 2022. What is it that I really want in 2022? What's the specific result or outcome? You should be able to look back at kind of your highlights of what you just wrote, right? and have at least an inkling, if not a clear idea of what is it you ultimately want. Okay. And it doesn't have to be, personal. It can be business, of course. It could be a combination of those things. It could be a kind of a universal thing. Number 7 would be, why do you want it? So what is it that you really want? Why do you want it? And then how am I going to get it, essentially? How am I going to make this happen? Okay. So number 7, the why, of course, is the purpose. What will it give you? How will it make you feel? As Tony Robbins says, reasons come first, answers come second. And then how am I going to make this happen? How am I going to achieve it? Rather than how come I have to do this, or why do I have to do this, or how am I ever going to achieve this? Why am I so overwhelmed? Okay. So I want us to focus on next 15 minutes or so on these 3 questions: what, the why, and the how, as we're dialing in our goals. Okay. Again, a lot of your goals are actually already in your highlights for 2022. That's good. We're just gonna keep flushing these things out a little bit further. Okay. 15 minutes or so on the RPMs, the 3 questions for 2022. Cool. Go for it. And again, feel free to raise your hand, interrupt, say something, shoot me a text, or put something in the chat. If you got something specific as a question, just throw it into the chat or raise your hand. Okay, it's about 15 there. Feedback. Was that challenging? Get through all 3 questions? Get hung up on anything? Any thoughts or questions?
I guess for me, I think I was able to fill out it fairly easily. I think for the how I'm going to make this happen piece, I think there's just there's a little bit more there of, I think there's a few hard decisions that I have to make, that I have to kind of come to a conclusion on in order to make things happen.
Yeah. Which might go to these questions here. What was your biggest obstacle in 2022 and how did you overcome it? Again, speaking as if you've already been through it.
Yeah.
There's I had to make some big decisions on a couple of those things, business-wise or personally, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay. Good. Adam or Ryan, any thoughts on either any of those questions or any part of the process so far?
Well, Don, how I'm going to make it happen? Do you not want to be negative, or like there's why am I so overwhelmed? But I don't know. I mean, I was trying to keep it positive, I guess, but just like I don't know, a more uplifting mindset.
So are you saying that your brain was wanting to go negative?
Kind of, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns of how you're going to make it happen.
Right.
And like I think some of those will be filled in, but I don't know. I mean, I guess I was trying to portray it back when we were doing the earlier part where you're discussing what your 2022 would look like.
Yeah.
I was just going very positive with, you know, like, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened, and I wasn't really thinking about how to make it happen.
Right.
But then like going back and thinking about some of those, it's like, well, I could move towards that, but there's some unknowns that gotta come to light before I could get there or something.
Yeah, 100%. But that's the challenge, is that I think, and I did this, oh gosh, well over a decade or 2, let's say, since I started doing this in like junior high school, just kind of setting goals, but my mind would, and this is kind of how the masculine works. It immediately goes to, well, how am I going to get that? How am I going to do that? And the how usually is what stops us, because your brain goes, well, I don't know how. And then that's it. So the whole idea is to get really crystal clear about what is that you really want, right? Also get very clear about why it is you must have it. So it's a very compelling vision of 2022, because that's ultimately what you were doing in saying everything with gratitude as if it already happened, was casting a vision for 2022, right, Adam? And then the how, you know what? You might not actually know the how, so that might be really difficult to answer right now. But as long as you keep every single day, kind of the forefront of your mind, thinking back about what is it you really want? Why do you want it? The how will eventually start to work itself out. Like Bryce might not know exactly how things happen, but he knows, like, after the fact, he just knows he has to make some big decisions. And then once those decisions are made, then the how will probably unveil itself, but you can't see beyond those big decisions, right?
Sure.
That makes sense, Adam?
Yeah.
So don't get too hung up on the how. The how can be challenging sometimes. Any other thoughts or questions? Cool.
Not for me, really.
Okay. So again, let's just keep working our way through this. We got 20 minutes left. This is where we start to look at more of what we can actually tangibly see just 90 days from now, right? So let's say at the very end of Q1 of the year, what is it that we ultimately want to see accomplished? So as it says here in number 9, from the lists above, what are all the big things you need to accomplish that if they were completed in 90 days from now would be a total game changer? Okay, and it doesn't have to be huge, massive things. They could be very small. Maybe for you, Bryce, again, would be, you got to get those decisions made, and they're tough ones to make, but they need to be made, right? And I threw in some examples like sell the house or put the house on the market, complete that real estate license certification, lose 20 pounds. Like, we need to get clear on what some of those things would be that if you accomplish them, they would be a game changer, even if there's resistance there and even if it's challenging to think about accomplishing those things. Okay. Or to your point, Adam, if you don't know how to necessarily accomplish those things, but you can at least tangibly say that if I completed that thing, let's say lose 20 pounds, that would be a game changer. Just use that as an example. Bryce, were you gonna say something?
No, I started filling out the sheet.
Cool. You took yourself off of mute, so I thought maybe you want to say something. Does that make sense? So let's just focus on number 9 from the list above. What are all the big things you need to accomplish that if they were completed in 90 days from now would be a game changer? And don't think you have to come up with all the things. It could literally just be one thing that would be the game changer on that. Cool. Let's take just a few minutes, complete that. Another minute and a half. Okay. Number 10 is essentially just from that list above. What are the top three? If you have three, or if you have more than three, I want you to rank those as top three of most important, ranking them in order. So you're actually going to write them down. Like an example would be sell the house, lose 20 pounds, complete the real estate license certification. What would be of those things you just wrote down under number 9? What are your top three from most important to first, second, and third priority? Okay. Hopefully you've got your top three things that you want to get done over the next 90 days. Circling back around, Adam, Bryce, Ryan, guys, it's like, this is your first stab at, the how, which is in number 8. If it doesn't flow out, hopefully as we keep digging in more and more, getting more and more granular, it starts to flush out. So we're not going to finish the rest of it tonight, but I want to go through each question real quick, and then I kind of want to open things up for any questions you guys have. A lot of this can be done, like I said, after the fact, and then if you need support, you guys all can obviously reach out to me one-on-one. We can schedule a call individually to go through this stuff or whatnot. So after you have your top three, number 11 is, of course, a reminder that everything we do so because we want to achieve a feeling, right? An emotion. So how would you feel when you complete your number 1 priority from number 10? Okay. So you want to write down like, oh man, I'd feel so relieved. That would be, again, Bryce, like to make that decision is really tough, but to think that's behind me would be amazing. That sort of thing, right? Number 12, what are all the tasks that you've done to accomplish the above number 1 priority? So that's again where we start to kind of brainstorm out a little bit more of the how. Okay. So if you're listing your house, you have to find a realtor, you have to paint the exterior, you have to remove the carpet, you have to install new carpet, you have to update the fixtures, blah, 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 right? It's a little bit easier one to think about. But that's where, this stuff should come relatively natural to you guys. Like, okay, if I'm going to accomplish that thing, that would feel amazing. Then what are the things I actually have to do to accomplish it? Get it actually done. Number 13 would be to organize that list from number 12, organize that list in sequential order. So you kind of know what needs to be done first, second, third, right? Because a lot of this stuff probably when you're brainstorming is going to be out of order. So you can kind of renumber those things or relist them under 13. Number 14 would be below each task. What are the subtasks that need to be accomplished? Because chances are still you need to do other things. So the whole idea is for you to get clear about like, shoot, if you have this, okay, here's an example of, you wrote that you have to update fixtures, you have to refinish kitchen cabinets. Well, even just to refinish the kitchen cabinets, you have all this other stuff, right? You have to sandpaper, you have to find a mask, you have to find a, complete the sanding, purchase the paint primer, yada, 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 right? So trips to Home Depot, all that good stuff, right? So this gets a little bit tedious, which is why we don't need to necessarily go into this. This should be stuff that you guys are pretty used to doing it in some respects. Number 15, again, would be similar to a question earlier. What roadblocks could you foresee that might keep you from making progress with completing any of the above tasks? Be not feeling like I have enough time, feeling overwhelmed, being exhausted at the end of the day, not having enough money. Like, what are all those things that you know you're gonna have to work through, right? And then finally, set a deadline for your goal and write it out in a statement like, I will sell my house by March 31st, or I will complete those, redoing the kitchen cabinets by March 31st, 2022. You want to get very, very clear about what that deadline is and write it out there. Make sense? Pretty straightforward. So I think all of this stuff that you have yet to do is stuff that we normally get to. That's kind of the stuff that we go to first. And if I had gone straight to that, I feel like it'd be like, okay, well, maybe it would feel good to have that stuff done, but I feel like that's stuff that you can do naturally. What we don't often do is go back to look at the highlights. We don't envision what our life or what the year would really look like if we could have it our way. Chances are, again, we kind of take our old version of ourselves and we just project it onto the new year, right? And to really look at what are the things that actually are highlights, the things that we're actually happy and excited about that would make our lives enriched, So in the remaining 10 minutes, while my dog continues to chew on his bone, you guys have any specific questions to the process or specifically to what you're working through in your life right now? Happy to kind of open things up right now to you if you have any questions. Anything that's not clear on the process that you got hung up on? Or even just general shares of how you're feeling.
I mean, I like the approach of like, the thinking about it, like kind of writing about your year as if it's already happened. Like, I've never done that before, so maybe, maybe there's some intention behind it that will help you, like, push you towards these things, that you've written down or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I mean, if you've done any studying of Dr. Joe Dispenza, a lot of the idea, what he suggests is like, get an elevated thought, get a very clear vision of what it is that you ultimately want in the future. And if you experience the feeling right here, right now, you will attract. It's kind of like he was in the, what do you call it? The Secret. And that whole idea of like, if you think on it enough, you'll attract it into your life. But that's the idea of kind of envisioning something, but to do it as if it's already happened from a place of gratitude, we have a much greater chance of attracting it into our lives. Otherwise, if we just go to like, oh, I'm going to set this goal for next year. How am I going to get it done? I don't know how I'm going to get it done. You know what I actually feel is overwhelmed and fear and resistance. And we want to push away from those feelings of negativity. And then we don't end up actually embracing the feeling of gratitude that you might experience or you would experience had you accomplished that goal at the end of the year. So that's the kind of the method behind the madness of this process. But, Bryce, were you gonna say something?
I guess for me, like the decisions I'm like having to make is I think I've hit a point in my life where I've had to make some changes, and I think I've taken on too many tasks. Almost in that change, everything looked like a shiny object type syndrome, and now trying to make that decision of, do I need to cut back, and are there potentially things that I have to drop out so that I can move forward? And that's
tough.
That's a tough place to be.
It's like almost like the idea of, do I need to let go of something that's good so that I can make room for something that's great?
Yeah.
my coach said that earlier this past year, like, you know what, sometimes Johnny, you have to let go of the princess to make room for the queen, you know? I was like, oh shit. Yeah, right. So the question to ask yourself too is like, where's your ego coming up that wants to, well, I put this much time and investment into it, or I really kind of envisioned that this would be, if you were to let go of that sense of like your attachment to an outcome, what could potentially fill its void if you were to give up on something, not give up on something, but let something go, I should say.
Well, and it might just be like of letting, it might not be a permanent let go of, you need to let go of it permanently, but rather it's, you're putting too much in the engine at the moment. It can't haul all of it. What do you have to build or become before you can have something that can actually accomplish that? Or what do you have to build, what do you have to build yourself into before you can actually tackle it?
Right. And look at the areas too where we might be lying to ourselves, because I think sometimes for me, like year after year after year after year of doing kind of the same thing with the hopes that I'm going to get something and realizing it's not happening. So am I going to reset same type of goals and think like, and it's a very kind of tough position of being like, we listen to those stories of perseverance and they just would not quit and they just kept on going. And if one day they accomplish their goal, but there's a slippery side to that as well, where sometimes our ego won't give up our attachment to how we envision something unfolding, and thus we're blocking money coming in or opportunities or, so
Yeah.
I too have found myself multiple times road where I'm like, do I give up this whole coaching thing? Like literally 2 weeks before I let my book out, I was like, you know what? Do I stop everything? Do I give up on my book? Do I stop the podcast? Do I stop coaching? Do I go back and get a corporate job? Because I was so frustrated in different areas of my life. And I think sometimes in those moments, kind of have that quote unquote come to Jesus moment where like, do I really, will that make me happier? And
Yeah.
decide for yourself if that's worth, so without knowing the context of what you're going through, like, I think you kind of, when you really get still and really quiet, I think you'll come to the answer that you ultimately really know deep down in your heart of what needs to happen. It just might be a difficult thing to happen, but you got to move on it. Otherwise, you might be right exactly where you are this time next year.
Mm-hmm.
And that would
Yeah.
be tough to accept. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's not obviously easy in the position that you're probably in right now, but you've got to continue kind of doing the process like we do, so you can kind of take as much of the resistance and the emotion out of it as you can, to just really focus on what needs to get done,
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that?
I think it's just kind of being alone with it. I don't think I do think that there's pieces of it where it's just, I've had one venture fail and then I'm immediately jumped into another versus maybe letting myself heal from the previous venture and just piled everything on top, which meant that I just, was piling everything into like a still damaged car versus actually trying to build it back up, do all the repairs and all that stuff. So I'm just trying to figure out how do I allow myself to heal, get myself back to where I get my my mentality and everything else back to where it would be to take on like a new business venture.
Yeah.
Because you need to almost be like fully, you need to be fully there and have a lot of stuff built up in order to go through a business, put all the work, put all the effort, put all that energy into building something. And if you're damaged after the previous one, I haven't allowed myself to necessarily heal, so I'm trying to figure that kind of stuff out.
Will you schedule a call for Wednesday, which I'm grateful you did. I think we'll talk more into that.
Yeah.
But I think it's no different in business as it is in relationships. Like my coach told me when I ended things with my ex, like, Johnny, you have to grieve this relationship because you haven't in the past. And chances are you've just taken your hurt, wounded self into the next relationship, thinking that that would, mend all wounds. And she's like, you're only gonna keep getting the same result until you finally are mature enough to, heal. So I'd probably say the same thing with you too. Like there is a grieving process to like letting go of an idea that maybe didn't take off like you thought it would, right? And
Yeah.
it's like a little baby that we put your heart and soul into when it comes to an entrepreneurial endeavor, right? And it's tough, but we can talk more about specifics of how I was taught how to do that and what might be good for you too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, you're very intuitive though. I think that's spot on. You're absolutely right in terms of the healing part. So it's good. We'll talk more on Wednesday.
No, absolutely.
Cool. Ryan, were you going to say anything?
Yeah, I think, for me, the revisiting of 2021 highlights is an important piece, right? That emotional connection to kind of future tasks, I feel like it kind of helps maintain a sense of urgency or at least some significance. Otherwise, it almost becomes sort of mechanical.
Yeah.
And that's when, that's when I tail off on attaining a goal, is when it's no longer, there's not a shine to it. It's just something on a list. So, kind of revisiting some previous highlights and making some connections on whether, future goals are connected in some way, or if there's an underlying trend between them. That I don't know, personally, that's extremely useful, I think, in kind of keeping the flame up on high.
100%. And worth rereading every week, every Sunday night, or every morning for that matter. Just what you envision 2022 to be, and to really lock that in so that you get excited about pursuing it. Otherwise, you're right. Otherwise, that's like just us guys going about checking things off a to-do list, and there's nothing sexy about a to-do list, right?
Yes.
So you're spot on, which is exactly why we did that.
Mhm.
Like get the juices flowing. Otherwise, it's just very transactional, and that's really not where the passion is in life, right? So yeah, spot on. Good. Like I said, since we didn't get all the way through it, I knew we wouldn't. It's a little bit longer of a process. I would say set a deadline, maybe before 1 week from now. Or if you can take the next couple of days, get it done by the end of this next weekend. I was doing it on Saturday, so I said I would get it done by the end of this week. So 1 full week, just to keep at it. Otherwise, it's one of those things like, oh, I'll get back to it, and I never get back to actually finishing it, right? So take time, schedule it. It's super important. If that's a challenge, like I said, schedule a call with me. I'll help you work through it, do anything I can to support you on that. And then the next key, obviously, is then kind of share what you want to do with your brothers, with anyone that has your back, that's going to hold you accountable to doing the things, Otherwise, it's just another document that you did, spent 2 hours tonight doing it, but it doesn't really mean anything because you don't revisit it again, right? So print it off, put it on your mirror, put it somewhere where you see it. Bryce, you have your whiteboard in the background. I have my whiteboard in my bedroom too, so I can see it all the time. That stuff, hard to run away from it when it's screaming at you every single day, right? In a good way. So any other closing thoughts, questions? You guys all know how to reach me if you need me, obviously. So we found it of value. Keep going back and keep working on, if you didn't finish just finish every section. Just go back through the beginning and really kind of make 2022 highlights as if it had already been done. Really work on that. So that gets really exciting. As I read through mine, I'm like, oh, that's going to be a hell of a year. That gets me excited. Where maybe a week or two before I did this process, I wasn't really excited, to be honest. So, cool.
Yeah, I had a question about, can I attend the in-person one on Saturday?
It was last Saturday. You missed it.
I understand that. I'm saying next week, like this next Saturday, can I come to that instead of doing the virtual one?
I think we're miscommunicating. We already did the in-person one this past Saturday. There isn't one this coming Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got you.
I can help you do this. Like I said, in person. I'm going to be out of town this whole next weekend.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it's not going on. But I can certainly help you. It was on the 8th and the 10th. So this Saturday and then today is more for guys that were not able to make it in person. So
Oh, I got you.
yeah. So sorry if that wasn't clear, but
No, it's okay. I just thought it was going to be ongoing for a while.
no.
And I thought Saturday worked better than Mondays, but if it's just the one night, it's fine.
No, but what we could do, again, if there's some of you guys that are like, oh, I need that accountability, then either I can join you guys, or even this Saturday, even though I'm gonna be out of town, you know, Adam, I know you know Bryce and some of the other guys, just decide you guys are gonna go to the coffee shop and keep working on it together,
Yeah,
you know?
that's a good idea. Yeah.
So I think you guys.
The only other question I had, that it's totally not related to goal setting,
tripped
but
up. Yeah. Go ahead.
no, you had a podcast that I'm having trouble remembering which one it was, and I wanted to revisit it,
Yeah,
and I kind of wanted to pick your brain about it.
sure.
I think it was a female guest that came on, and I believe she was talking about books that she had read that talked about the feminine side
Uh-huh.
a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember which podcast it was that she was on.
It's gonna be one of two, and I'll go back to my notes and I'll text you literally in 5 minutes what those books were.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, my notes, one of
That's
two,
cool.
back to back. Yeah. So
One of them I think you read, and I was interested in looking into it myself, and I don't know, reading it just to, I don't know, try and tap into that, getting to meet another woman and trying to understand women better and all that.
yeah. Well, I think that would be something that would be good to put on your goals. You know, some of the things I didn't put on my goals, well, I did ultimately after the fact, and this is probably good for you guys in wrapping things up. Like, again, goals, yes, of things to accomplish, but also ways of being. Like, I need to work on being early, not like on time or late. I just need to work on that, right? Not being driven by disappointment, right? Not always being so angry when I'm behind the wheel, which has to do with me always maximizing my time and trying to like rush somewhere because I'm running late, right?
Hmm.
So ways of showing up, slowing down, doing more while doing less. I don't know, that's kind of my focus for 2022, is being more connected with the present moment, not always rushing. So maybe you guys can add a little something into that document that focuses on like ways of being too. Maybe you're going to be more gentle or more patient with yourself. Give yourself a little more grace. So anyways, yeah, I'll send that list to you, Adam, and we can talk offline about some of that stuff. And I love to geek out over that stuff. So
Sure, no
Yeah.
worries.
but thank you guys for coming. Thanks for taking 2 hours out of your night when you were exhausted and everything else going on. Yeah, Bryce.
Oh, just gonna say goodnight.
So you're raising your hand, but I'll send you guys the recording of this too, if you want to go back to anything on it. And like I said, schedule a call. Feel free to. I'm here to help you in any way I can. And I think this guy needs to go to the bathroom. Hopefully, outside on the kitchen floor. You ready? Thank you guys. We'll catch up soon.
Yep.
Sure.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks, Johnny. Night, y'all.
Good to see you.
See ya.